Fine. So yes, now today is the 11th lecture and we are discussing the pulse width modulation techniques for the electric motor drive, and particularly for the induction motor drive when we have to operate in V by F mode, we need to have this variable amplitude, variable frequency kind of operation for the converter. And in that we are discussing several things. So first thing was related to the symmetry of waveform. So how symmetry in a waveform helps in removing some of the harmonics, helps in maintaining the phase of the fundamental and other harmonics. And then finally, we summarize this for single phase or three phase system that we must have the full wave symmetry, half wave symmetry, and quarter wave symmetry. And then we had the three phase balance system where we saw that if we are having a balanced three phase system, we automatically get rid of the triple harmonic components, for example 3, 9, 15, 21, etc. And hence, if this three-phase symmetry is maintained, our system is free from all such voltages and currents. So that is a very good and important thing for any system. So you can get rid of so many harmonics which would have been there in your system if you had not maintained any symmetry or had not taken care of these things. Now we saw that if we are maintaining all the symmetries, then basically we are reducing our number of independent switching angles in the waveform. So how many independent variables we have in a system is now only limited to 1/4. Any 1/4 you can take. If those angles are defined, then that means all the other angles can be figured out based on the symmetry conditions. So we have seen a case for two switching angles alpha 1, alpha 2. And then slowly we try to understand that when we have such system, what happens to our VRN voltage, where N is the neutral point of the load. So we are applying some pole voltage to the system. So pole voltages are having all the odd harmonics, first, third, fifth, seventh, etc. Let's say if we are talking about 6-step mode or the square wave mode. So then we compute the line-to-line harmonic and we see that third harmonics go missing, which means if we try to retrieve back our phase voltage, that is not going to be same as our pole voltage. So what we saw that indeed it is different and it is a waveform which is having different steps. So 6 steps in total. So that's why the name 6-step waveform comes. And this is different from VRO in terms of the triplet harmonics. Otherwise, all other harmonics are same in VRO and VRN. There is no change in amplitude or phase or anything. So then we saw that ultimately what we have to do in any system, let us say we have the set of harmonics available and their amplitude is going in this fashion 1 by nth times. So n is the harmonic number. So every time we have any harmonic, it is automatically 1 by nth of the fundamental. So we have first, third, fifth, seventh, ninth, etc. in the pole voltage, and we know that third and ninth and so on, the triplet harmonics are not going to appear. So we need not bother about these. So then, apart from maintaining fundamental, we need to bother about the most dominant harmonics, which means the fifth and the seventh. So this is what we have seen. Now we will try to understand how and what can be done to at least reduce some of the harmonics, or let's say if we can eliminate some of the harmonics from the system. So we know that if we have any waveform and we try to introduce a degree of freedom in that, so 1 degree of freedom means we have the liberty to change the fundamental only. So if we are trying to manipulate or change the harmonics, any one or maybe multiple, then we need more degree of freedoms for that PWM waveform, which means more switching angles in the quarter cycle. So this is what we are going to have essentially. Now, let us say we introduce one more degree of freedom and we try to eliminate one of the harmonic, what happens? So this is what we will analyze in little more detail. So because we are maintaining all the symmetries are maintained in the waveform, which means the full wave symmetry, half wave symmetry, quarter wave symmetry, and three-phase symmetry. So what it means that analyzing 1/4 of the complete waveform in a three-phase system is sufficient to understand the properties of all the three phases. So what all harmonics would be present, what would be their amplitude, what would be their angle, and all these things we can tell on basis of this quarter cycle analysis. So we need not do the complete waveform analysis for such systems where these symmetries are maintained. So that's another advantage. Our burden is reduced. We need not do the computation for all the three phases, all the angles like 0 to 2 pi. So we are happy with this quarter cycle. Let's say this is our VRO waveform. So we know that if we do the harmonic analysis of this system, our harmonic voltage or this VRO we can say in general is going to be sum of all these harmonics, odd harmonics. And the amplitude would be 2 VDC by pi times of 1 minus 2 cos n alpha 1 plus 2 cos n alpha 2. So this is what is going to be our amplitude of different harmonics, and VRO amplitude, so you can add now here sine n theta, then it becomes your VRO voltage. So this each and every harmonic which is having this amplitude, this is the amplitude of the harmonic, and then multiplied by the corresponding sine n theta. So this gives the component for that harmonic, and then sum of all is actually giving the VRO. Now we are interested only in the amplitude of the harmonic, so we can take, let us say, Vn, and then that can be represented by 2 VDC by n pi 1 minus 2 cos n alpha 1 plus 2 cos n alpha 2. Now in this we have this portion which is dependent on alpha 1, alpha 2 and n, and this is also dependent on n. So let's say if we take a base voltage of 2 VDC by pi, so basically this corresponds to the fundamental voltage in square wave. Or 6-step mode. This is the highest voltage what we can have in any PWM converter. So the fundamental voltage limit is this. We cannot have more than the square wave. So that is, we have maximized. We are not reducing anywhere any component of the voltage. So then if we take this as base, we can normalize our harmonic voltages. Let's say I write prime here. So this is nothing but 1 by n times of 1 minus 2 cos n alpha 1 plus 2 cos n alpha 2. This is our normalized voltage, any harmonic order. So here n could be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, anything. But 3, 9, these things we are not interested in. So 1, 5, 7 and so on we will analyze. Now let us see what does it mean by having a particular voltage. Let's say first talk about V1, because our first task is to generate V1 as per our requirement. So this is turning out to be this is your fundamental component. Of course, this is normalized. So now you can see that for different alpha 1, alpha 2, you can generate different V1. And sometimes it may happen that for different V1, V2, you may end up generating the same V1. So which means if let us say we try to plot this in a alpha 1, alpha 2 switching angle plane. So let's say I have a graph something like this. So let's try to understand a little bit more what a PWM is and what we are trying to do. Now, in this plane, let us say if we have to figure out first where our V equal to 1 is. So that means this expression, let us say I write somewhere here. So V1 is equal to 1 minus 2 cos alpha 1 plus 2 cos of alpha 2. So obviously, if we maintain somehow alpha 1 is equal to alpha 2, then V1 is always going to be 1. So basically these two terms cancel out, which means what? We are switching alpha 1 and alpha 2, both the switching angles are together. So we have a very fine, which is equivalent to nothing, no notch, almost zero width notch at that point. So alpha 1, alpha 2 both are coinciding. So in this plane, actually this line, what is there, that is alpha 1 equal to alpha 2 line, and this corresponds to V1 equal to 1 per unit, which means 2 VDC by pi or 6-step mode. Now alpha 1, alpha 2 could be anything, but they are equal. So anything varying between 0 and pi by 2, that is the limit for alpha 1 and alpha 2, 0 to pi by 2. Now, second thing, let's say if you try to have zero fundamental voltage, because maybe very close to zero we need to start our motor. From when we are starting from zero speed, this is the voltage we need to look for, something very close to 0 per unit. So let's try to have that thing in our graph. So let us say we have 1 minus 2 cos alpha 1 plus 2 cos alpha 2 equal to 0. Now if you put, let's say alpha 1 equal to 0 degree. So what will happen? For having V1 equal to 0, your alpha 2 will turn out to be 60 degree. If you solve this, this 2 cos alpha 1 would come out to be equal to 1. So cos alpha 2 equal to 1 by 2, and then alpha 2 equal to 60 degree. So which means a point over here. Something like this. This is our point where so alpha 1 is 0 and alpha 2 is 60 degree. So this is where our V1 is 0. Now let's figure out another point. Let's say we plug in alpha 1 is equal to 90 degree. So our alpha 2 is again going to be what? Any guess? What is that? Anybody there listening?
$120.
Yes.
Okay. So which means this is going beyond the range, which means this alpha 1 equal to 90 degree and alpha 2 is not possible. So we have to be within the range. So let's try other extreme. Let's say alpha equal to 90 degree. Then what happens for alpha 1? Anybody? Yes.
60 degree.
60 degree.
Straightforward answer. So now, which means the other point lies somewhere here. So we can figure out that any point, if we operate on this curve, this is basically not a straight line but a curve. So okay, let me draw again a little more carefully. So on this curve, if you operate any alpha 1, alpha 2, then this will correspond to V1 equal to 0 per unit. For suppose you take this value or this value, let's say 30 degree of alpha 1, you will find some value of alpha 2 which will be close to, let us say, some 75, this is something like 70 degree or something like that, maybe 71 or 72 degree. So this is how you are going to get these angles. So which means we are getting a family of points, which means a curve for a particular value of V1. So similarly, for any V1, let us say between 0 and 1, if we have to obtain, it will be actually set of curves or set of point lying on a curve. So all these curves will give you same value of V1 and finally reaching V equal to 1. So can these curves intersect? Question for you. Can these curves ever intersect?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir. Because if they intersect, that means two curves are having same V1 value, which is not possible. Or the same point is giving two V1 value, which is not possible. Correct? So this is how the family of voltages we can find where we have a fixed value of V1. So any point, let's say you operate on this curve, any point on this will give you 0 voltage, and any point on this will give you 1 per unit voltage. That means 2 VDC by pi fundamental peak value. And similarly, any of these curves, let us say this you take, this may be close to 0.2 per unit. So any point on this will give you this value. Now, what about the other ranges? From here to here we are clear. Now let us see what this range means. Here simply it means that alpha 1 is greater than alpha 2. So we can see if we have a converter operating with these switching angles alpha 1 and alpha 2, can ever alpha 1 be greater than alpha 2? Can alpha 1 cross alpha 2?
No, sir.
So all these points in the lower triangle, let me draw with another color. All these points are non-feasible points, which means you cannot operate your converter in this range. So this is a useless range for us. We do not operate in here. And what about this? So here basically we will see little later also that our V1 is having negative value. So we will see what is the consequence of operating in this zone little later. Okay, now once these things are said, so we are only operating in this range where we have V1 equal to 0 and then going up to V1 equal to 1. Now, if someone asks you what is a PWM technique for, let's say, operating induction motor drive in V by F mode, so what you would say that our voltage should vary from 0 to 1 gradually or monotonically. So any line if I draw or any curve if I draw from here to here, let's say I draw by black, let's say this curve AB, or there could be anything else like this CD, or anything like this EF. These all could be a PWM technique, which means you are having some value of alpha 1, alpha 2, and it is giving you a value of 0 per unit for the fundamental. From there you are starting the motor, which is a good point to start, and then gradually you are moving towards the final value, which means V equal to 1 per unit, and while maintaining V by F, which means your frequency is also increasing in the same fashion. Now, out of these AB, CD and EF, these three curves, AB and CD are good PWM techniques, we can say, compared to EF. So EF, the problem is we are changing our modulation index again, or changing our value of V1. Again, we are reducing and then we are increasing, which may not be a good thing to do for a motor. So any curve now if we generalize this thing, what we can say that any curve which has monotonically increasing V1, then this is called as a good PWM technique, compared to which are not having this property. I have not stated anything related to what happens to other harmonics. So then AB or CD could be our choice to operate the motor from 0 per unit to 1 per unit. Now, how do we select whether the AB is good or the CD is good? Which one to choose? How do we know this? So certainly when we are trying to do this, we must have some more say over the harmonics as well. So let us say, let's try to figure out where our at least one of the harmonic is going close to 0. So let us say we have fixed the value of V1. It is some V1 star. And we are trying to figure out V5, or maybe let's say independent of V1. We are just trying to figure out points where V5 is equal to 0. Say this one harmonic we are interested in. So what we have, 1 minus 2 cos alpha 1, sorry, here this would be 5, and cos 5 alpha 2 equal to 0, and of course 1 by 5 is here. This is the value of V5, what we are trying to equate to 0. So again, ultimately it is this expression only. Which we are trying to plot in our alpha 1 and alpha 2 plane. Correct? So again, we can have the same technique. Let us say if you put alpha 1 equal to 0 degree. So what value of alpha 2 you are going to get for V5 equal to 0? So anyone, quick answers?
12 degree.
Yes. And if let us say you put some other value, let's say alpha 1 equal to 60 degree. What is the value of alpha 2? Quickly.
80.
18 degree.
Yes.
18.
Correct. So something like this we are going to have. No, is 18 correct?
Yes.
Okay. Fine. So now let us say if we put, so there could be another value of this alpha 2 also, no, when we are having this range, let's say 0 to 90 degree. So which means if this is true for 12 degree, this could also be true for 60 degree, isn't it? Is this true or not? Is it correct? Can someone confirm?
Yes, sir, it is correct.
So for the same value of alpha 1, 0, we are getting two values of alpha 2, 60 and 12. So which means we have multiple options. That means we are going to get many curves for this particular value V5 equal to 0. So let me plot with these values what we have got in the alpha 1 alpha 2 plane. So what we may have, this is 1 point, so 30 degree, this is 15, somewhere 12 here. This is 1 point V5 equal to 0. This is another point V5 equal to 0. Now if you calculate, compute, there could be many more points coming on this graph which will give the same value of V5, which is 0. And this will be located something like this. So this value would be within 30, something like this. In fact, you can compute this point where it is having only one value. So alpha 1 where we have only one value of alpha 2. So a curve like this. Similarly, another curve we can find on this side. So this will be something like this. So if you plug in the alpha value 60 degree, you have got 90 degree, right? This is the point which you have got. And for alpha 2 equal to 90 degree, you may get alpha 1 equal to some 84 degree or something like that. So this is another curve. Now, what does this mean? That we have multiple options for V5 equal to 0 if we have to operate. Similarly, let's say if we try to have V7 equal to 0, so what we need to do, we need to equate this expression this is our equation corresponding to V7 equal to 0. Because 5th and 7th are the most dominant harmonics, so we are interested in these two as of now. So V7 also, if you try to plot, you will get another family of this thing curves over there, and again this you plug in the value and you will find something like this, or one curve could be here, or one curve could be here. So the repeatability is increasing. Let us say you had only two curves here, now you are having three, let us say for V7. So of course, when we are going for higher order, let us say 7th, we have 7 alpha 1, 7 alpha 2. So multiple options within 0 and 90 degree we can have. So this is what now we can have. So let's try to analyze this little bit more, that what we are trying to achieve when we get this thing in alpha 1 alpha 2 plane, and we have two switching angles, because if we go for 3 it will become a 3D. So that is little bit more difficult to analyze. So a little bit clearer picture is plotted over here corresponding to the different. So M you read as V1, which is the normalized V1 actually. So this, and then we have V5 and V7 equal to 0 curves given over here. So that's what we have discussed, that any monotonically increasing PWM or monotonically increasing V1 could be a good PWM. Let's say AB or any like this. So we may also have some discontinuity, but it should be monotonically increasing. Discontinuity is not bad. That is also good actually. So if you are getting some good value here and then some good value here, it is fine to have discontinuous operation. Now, what we can do, what options we can have if we have this thing to operate our motor. See, simplest thing what we can do is we have to go from this V equal to 0, V1 equal to 0 per unit to V2 equal to, V1 equal to 1 per unit. Now what we can do, one option, we can either follow our V5 equal to 0 curve. So wherever it is available, and then we just follow this axis. That could be one option. So for V5, if we are following, we have this option also. We can follow even this curve. Maybe we will cover a little more range on V1, and then we drop directly from there to here. Another option could be we take V7 as our following path, V7 equal to 0, and we go up to whatever value the V1 is increasing monotonically, and then we drop to V1. We take a shortest route from this V7 equal to 0 to V1. So here also we have another option. So if we are starting from this point, we can first drop up to this where our V7 equal to 0 curve starts, and then we follow that. We trace that exactly, and then again we drop back to the 1 per unit voltage. So these could be some of the options. Now another option could be there that we may not follow any of these curves. We can go somewhere in between. So let us say a third line. So let me draw by blue, which could be a straight line from this point 60, 90 to this 1 per unit curve. So this also could be a good PWM. We are not trying to have any harmonic equal to 0, but we are very close to that. So, and we are somewhere in middle and then coming to 1 per unit. Now, this is where when we have multiple options, then we need to understand little bit which of these options are good, which of these options can be taken up, and they are advantageous then in what terms. This is what we are trying to figure out in this class. So another thing now related to the zone of operation. Now this is what we have to do. So we will see some performance metrics. Now before that, what happens in this zone? This we have called negative V1 zone. What happens in this? And this is our positive from here to here. Now what happens if you switch from positive zone to here? Also you have some V7 equal to 0. Here also you have some V5 equal to 0, and again some V7 equal to 0. But what happens if you jump from one zone to another zone? So let us see two examples of each zone. I mean one example from each zone. So you have this PWM waveform, let's say 1 for positive V1 zone. So what this alpha 1, alpha 2 could be? A good value, let's say something like if we are having 30 degree alpha 1, the alpha 2 could be 50 degree. So let's say this operating point we are taking over here. So what will happen if we draw our complete waveform, how it will look like? There will be one notch in the quarter cycle, and then it will continue. So let's say this is 30 degree, this is 50 degree. So 20 degree notch is coming over here, and again the 20 degree notch will come over here in the next quarter, and then at pi we switch down to negative half cycle. Again we have a notch in the third quarter, and all these notch are 20 degree width only. And then again we have a 20 degree notch, and then going to the full cycle, and this is where it repeats. So now if you have practiced your Fourier transform and little bit understanding you have gained, you can see this. For this waveform, the fundamental will be something like this. So we are applying more positive in this first half cycle. So that means we are going to get some positive fundamental component. Positive in the sense the phase will be somewhat like this. Peak coming near the pi by 2. Positive peak. Now let's take the second waveform, what we have. So quickly let us see what could be the switching angles of that waveform. So something like if this is 10 degree, this is like 80 degree. This is a typical negative zone operation. So what happens in that? How does the waveform look like? So we have a quick switching for the minus VDC by 2, and then a long gap between the next switching. So this is something like 80 degree, this is something like 10 degree, and then again we have 90 degree over here. So immediately 10 degrees after this will switch back, and then it will continue up to something like 170 degree, and then this is pi, and 10 degrees after pi again it will switch back to VDC by 2. Then 10 degrees before 3 VDC by pi it will switch back again. And then again here 10 degrees before 2 pi again it will switch back to minus VDC and then going back to VDC. So now you can see this waveform is having more negative value in the positive half cycle and more positive value in the negative half cycle. This is what I was trying to say. So for all such waveforms where we have this imbalance, how it would have been? It would have been like this: more positive in the first half, more negative in the second half. So for this particular waveform, the fundamental component may actually look like this. If you compute the Fourier coefficient, the coefficient will come negative. So this is the meaning of negative coefficient. So you have more negative, bigger notches coming over here, which means your fundamental is kind of inverted. So if this is 0 degree phase, this is like 180 degree phase. This is the meaning of negative zone. So if we are switching, let's say between 0 and 180 because of some unknown reason, then we may actually spoil our system. So sometimes we'll be applying V1 voltage at 0 degree phase angle and then suddenly V1 at 180 degree phase angle. So which may be very, very disastrous for our motor drive. So you may see huge inrush currents flowing in the system, which may actually damage the motor drive. So this is what we should try to avoid. So if we are operating in positive zone, we must stick to this. If we are operating in negative zone, we must stick to that. Switching between these two zones is not good. So unless we have some special requirement and we have made arrangements for that, this should be avoided. This must be avoided. Now let us see some performance metrics, what we should have to judge our PWM techniques, whatever we are going to have in our system. So several options we have discussed. So any curve which may be following V5 or V7 or maybe somewhere in between, but which one to choose? Which one could be called as a good PWM techniques? So for that we need to have some performance metric. Now what is a performance metric? Performance metric is basically nothing but a way to compute quantitatively what your harmonics are, or which particular harmonic you are trying to reduce, whether that target is achieved or not. This could be a good performance metric. So one thing we can have is like, let's say if we have targeted that we are going to have a particular harmonic, let's say V5 equal to 0 in our system, then any PWM technique we can judge on basis of this, how close it is to achieve V5 equal to 0 while maintaining V1 at the desired value. So V1 star is the desired value. So while maintaining V1, how much it is close to this performance metric. So same thing can be said for any harmonic in general. So we can have any harmonic, let's say Vn equal to 0 while having V1 at the desired value. This could be one performance metric. If somehow we are interested in eliminating that particular harmonic from the system, then whether the PWM technique is able to achieve that or not. This is what the performance metric is. Now another performance metric, let us say we do not try to eliminate, but we try to somehow minimize our most dominant harmonics. Let's say V5 square plus V7 square. So most dominant harmonics, that means the amplitudes related to that V5 and V7 while maintaining V1 at some value, let's say V1 star. So this could be another performance metric. So which is where the third curve which I said, which is going in between V5 and V7, this could be advantageous. If for some reason we want that, then this is a very good option. So we are close to both V5 equal to 0 and V7 equal to 0 for most of our range of operation. And towards the end, we are deviating a little bit. So that's okay. Compared to many other options, this could be a reasonably very good option. Now, what other thing could be there that, okay, you include more voltage harmonics in your performance criteria and you write something like, okay, I will minimize, let us say, a bigger set of harmonics n from n not equal to 1 and all the odd values, 5, 7 non-triple and odd values. So these and sum all of that. So n could be maximum you can fix. Let's say you fix like some 30 or something like 50. So up to 50th harmonic, whichever are coming over there, we will have minimized values of all this sum while maintaining our V1 at the desired value. This could be another performance metric. It doesn't matter how many switching angles you have, you can always do this. So another option could be, which is more load dependent or more performance oriented, is like you minimize some of all the harmonic currents which are there in the system. Similar to voltage, because ultimately what we are interested in having a better performance for the load, for the system. So which means we are interested in having a good current in total for our system. So which means some of all the harmonics you try to minimize while this condition is maintained. Again, you can fix some value for n, let's say 30 or 50 or 100, whichever you feel like. So another option could be, instead of going all this, let us say just this sum, if we are interested in something which is more relative, so which could be total harmonic distortion in current. So this is a term which is relative to the fundamental. So we will discuss this thing little later. What is this total harmonic distortion? This could be one criteria, one performance metric. Now, another one which is more related to our motor drive system is that we try to eliminate a particular torque harmonic. So this we will see in little more detail. So as of now, you can say like, okay, this could also be a good performance metric for our system, which PWM is generating the least value of this particular harmonic is considered good. Now, let's say we discuss this performance metric, which is the total harmonic distortion, which is true probably for the grid connected systems also and for motor drive also from the loss perspective. So if we have more harmonics getting into the system, which means more harmonic loss, and that's why the efficiency may go down. You may have more heating and the performance may deteriorate. So let's understand this total harmonic distortion a little bit more in line current. So the definition of ITHD says that it is the ratio of, this is the total RMS value of the waveform, and you subtract the fundamental RMS value divided by the square of the RMS value. So these are absolute numbers, that's why this square is there. So here also this square is there, or it can be written in different terms as IRMS of all the harmonics only. That means the ripple current RMS value and divided by the fundamental. Now this can also be written as, when you have ripple current RMS value, which means it is sum of all the harmonics in the system, n not equal to 1, IN square divided by I1, sum of all the harmonic currents. So this is the definition which we are going to follow, because we can compute the individual harmonics and we can play with that. Particularly for three-phase system, we will have 5th plus 7th plus 11th plus 13th and so on. So up to whatever value you want, whatever value of Nmax you want, you can take this. So we are trying to minimize this ITHD. And this will define how our PWM technique is performing with respect to any other standard technique or the available methods. Now, the problem with this ITHD is that here these numbers or these components are load dependent. Of course, it is current. What you are having is voltage source inverter, and you are trying to compute current from that, which means there is dependency on load. So we may try to have a more universal performance factor or performance metric, which can be called as load independent. Then it can be compared for different PWM techniques irrespective of which motor or which load we are applying to. So let us see that. We have seen the harmonic model of induction motor. And by and large, this is sum of the stator and leakage, stator and rotor leakages. So LL, where LL is LLS plus LLR. And this is where we are feeding our Vn, the harmonic voltage, and In is generated like that. So which means our In is basically the magnitude of In is basically Vn by omega n omega L. So LL to be specific, if I write. So this is what we know. We have seen this, how it comes out. So this is what we are going to use. Now, if you plug in this value in your ITHD equation or the formula, it will look like sum of n not equal to 1 Vn by n omega LL square divided by I1. Now we can take out omega LL, and this can be written as so still there is some dependency on load because of I1, but other part, the Vn by n, this part is independent of load. So whatever load you have, this value will be direct measure of how good your PWM technique is, irrespective of any load. But let us try to have the same thing for I1 also. Now, I1 may have different values for different load conditions. So let us take the worst condition. So the worst condition means the I1 value is least, which means for no load operation. For no load operation of induction motor, we have the minimum value of I1, and which is mainly the magnetizing current. So if we have the no load equivalent circuit of induction motor, so what we can say that because this impedance is very large, so this can be ignored in the parallel branch, and then we will be left with this LM and this LLS RS, among which the LM is the dominant one. And that's why if we say the magnetizing current, it is largely dependent on LM. So Im magnitude can be written as the input voltage divided by omega Lm. The core loss component is ignored over here. So, and then we have this current, which is almost the 90 degree of the V1. This may also be called as open load impedance, except the RS and LLS. Now what happens to our ITHD? Now ITHD can be written as, so we have omega LL here, and then sum of n not equal to 1, Vn by n square divided by the V1 by omega Lm. So which can be written as Lm by LL. So these are our approximations we are having, n not equal to 1, Vn by n square divided by V1. Now, except this part, now this part alone can give a good information about the PWM waveform, that how well it is performing. So this could be a very good measure of how much current THD we will have in the system, and this is only dependent on the voltage harmonics which can be computed from the PWM waveform. So this is just a scaling factor, Lm by L1. This is a scaling factor. So which means if we define another term which is called as weighted THD of voltage, and in particular line to line voltage or line to neutral voltage, so because we are not considering the third harmonics, so this can be written as n not equal to 1 Vn by n by V1. So for a given system, our ITHD is proportional to V weighted THD. So this is weighted total harmonic distortion. Because this factor n is coming with every harmonic, which means the importance of the higher harmonic is going down. Now lower harmonics are having more importance or more value in the minimization factor, because these are the dominant ones as far as ITHD is considered. This will impact the ITHD more. For low n, the impact is more. Compared to high n. So obviously we can see over here. So which means if you are trying to have some minimization, let's say up to n equal to 50, and you try to increase from 50 to 100, you may not see very big change from the in the value of ITHD or in the angles whichever you solve. So this is the performance metric which we may use for doing our computations for the alpha 1, alpha 2 or all the switching angles. So V weighted THD is a very important term to remember while designing the PWM. Now, there could be another performance metric may be more important for the grid connected system. So we call that the total demand distortion. So we have ITDD. Instead of harmonic distortion, we have total demand distortion, which means sum of all the harmonics In not equal to 1 square and divided by this I1 rated. This is not at present what you are drawing, but the rated value. So which means it is a fixed number for a given system. As soon as you fix the system, your value is fixed. So this is called total demand distortion. So sometimes in the grid connected systems, this term is very important. So again, this can be equated somewhere to weighted THD of line to line voltage if you just scale this term with the rated current. So ITDD is nothing but 1 by I1 rated into V weighted THD, and maybe this V1 is also coming over here. So if for every value you scale it with your desired V1 and the rated I1, then this can be correlated with your weighted THD. This is the difference between all these performance metrics. These are all different ways how we judge any PWM technique, how good it is or what advantage it is giving to us. Based on this only, we have any reasonable design of the PWM technique. By design, what I mean, how we traverse from the V equal to 0 per unit point to V equal to 1 per unit point. So we do not do in a random fashion, but we do it as per the requirement. So this is what is the meaning of having a performance matrix. So whether this path is good or you take another path, that all depends on what you want. There is no hard and fast rule, what your system demands. So based on that, we can have these things. Now, little bit more detail about what PWM techniques based on these performance metrics we can have. This we will discuss in the next class. And also the torque harmonic, how it is generated and how it can be reduced or minimized. So let's stop here. If you have any questions, you may ask now.